This headset and it's through this amazing screen here. Look at this. There's pixels here. It's like a screen that has depth, that has pixels that you go through. That is just crazy. All right, guys, welcome back, and here it is, the Pimax 8KX. Finally, for review on my channel. It took me a while to do it, only because I spent literally the last 4 weeks flying, driving, tweaking, messing with it, trying a bunch of different games, Skyrim, Assetto Corsa, Microsoft Flight Sim, DCS, you name it. I've been here in VR with this headset, so super excited to bring you my review, my thoughts, and right now we're going to talk about the hardware, software setup. I'm going to let you know how it went for me, give you some different alternatives if that's not certain things you don't want to do, right? If you want to mount it into your wall, give you some different options. We're going to talk about some pros and cons. I'm going to go over some of the games I also ran in and my experience in them, and in the end give you a conclusion and kind of just let you know who this headset is for, who it's not for, and just give you my perspective, right? Someone who's been flying in VR for quite some time. So let's get into it. Here we go. All right, guys, and if it's your first time here, my name is Jose. I'm an air traffic controller. Thank you for joining me. Super excited to have you. Feel free to leave me some feedback, thumbs up, thumbs down, subscribe if you haven't, if you like this content. But yeah, guys, so really what I do on this channel is I bring you VR content, most of it flight sim related. As you can see, this is my sim pit right here. I got my honeycomb, I got joystick, I got the yoke, I got the whole setup to fly. And my trusty headsets right there, they're G2, V2, and the Pimax, I'm sorry, the Quest 2, right? Yeah, the Quest 2. So that's the original Quest 2, 64 gigabytes, and it's still running. And I take that thing to work daily. So yeah, so that thing's a little beast of a headset. Anyways, let's get into this. So I've been flying in VR since 2014 with the Oculus DK1 headset, guys. And I'm pretty sure I have probably one of the first videos on YouTube with DCS in virtual reality. And I'll link it below if anybody wants to watch it just to kind of see what that was like. But guys, the resolution on this headset, the way that this headset was built and everything, and where we are today with something like the Pimax, it is mind-blowing, right? So I'm super grateful to have this opportunity to share this with you guys. And by the way, let's talk about this real fast. Pimax sent out this headset for me for review. They haven't paid me for this. They haven't asked for me to say anything. They haven't asked to see this video. They haven't asked for me to say or not say anything. So again, this is a simmer, just really excited to have this opportunity to share all this content and knowledge and stuff with you guys. And I didn't put out a video earlier just because I wanted to kind of try different games, start with a cold computer, install 5 more things like I do, run a bunch of software, and then try the software, just really see how it's going to run on a normal computer, not just like this, super clean, curated VR computer. I will say I am running an RTX 3090 with a 12900K, so the performance on this is exceptional. It really is. And I can't really imagine running it on anything else because this is what I have right now. My old setup was a 9700K with a 3090. Before that, it was a 9700K with a 2080, but I don't have that anymore. In fact, I have the CPU, but I don't have the GPU. I sold the GPU so I could buy the 3090. So real fast, so I wanted to learn a little bit about Pimax. I'm gonna just read this up here. So Pimax was founded originally from Shanghai in 2015 by Robin Wang. And they initially started with a Pimax 4K, which was a headset with 4K resolution. And shortly after, in 2017, they had done some crowdfunding on Kickstarter, and they ended up getting around 4 million, a little bit over 4 million, to fund the Pimax 8K. I think it was the 8K then. Now, I feel like I've been a little spoiled because I've been able to use this awesome headset, which has been absolutely, amazing, great quality. Not perfect, right? I don't think there's any perfect headset, but it's been really good so far in my experience in these last 4 weeks. And early on, there was some maybe issues with quality control, some hardware, as it was, a small crowd-funded company. And they definitely had some challenges in trying to, work with the community, give them customer support. But from my understanding, things have improved. Now, I'm grateful to really, again, bring this to you from a point point of view, someone who's been simming in VR for a long time. So guys, the two big things about the Pimax headset that they're bringing to the table right now, it's really the ultra wide field of view, right? It's 200 degrees diagonal, corner to corner, and it's 170 degrees, left to right. So it's an extremely huge field of view. When we're talking about the other headsets, whether it's the Reverb G2 or the Quest 2, these standard headsets have, no more than 110, I think 120, I think that the Valve Index might have. But again, all these headsets really, it feels like you're looking through binoculars, while the Pimax just really opens out, and it brings you to a level of immersion that it's really hard to explain, right? It's amazing. You feel like you're inside the car. You feel just like that much more aware, as you can see your side mirror. When you're in the Baron, you can see the engines on both sides, and it's just an amazing experience when you have first of all, that clarity of the 4K panels tied to that field of view, but that's not all that matters, right? There's different factors here. There's actually quite a lot, comfort, software, how easy is it to use, setup, etc. So we're gonna talk about that right now. All right, guys, so when it comes to setup for the Pimax, it's going to be pretty straightforward. Again, they're going to have a little pamphlet inside the box. It's going to kind of show you. There's a bunch of video tutorials, and I'll tell you what. So you got the DVI, you got two USB cables, one of them being a 3.0. Once you install that, you plug these in, not install, once you plug these into your computer, you should be pretty much set as far as it goes to hardware. And then on top of that, you're going to set up your base stations, right? So I have one base station set up over there, way over there. As you can see, it actually shoots right, it reads or it sends a signal above my monitor right to my seating position, which is right there. Now, I do have two other base stations over here. There's one up there, and then there's another one right there, which we saw there in the corner. And essentially, having three is going to be a better tracking solution, but I decided to run one and just really test that one out for flying and driving, and it does a great job. So I could look around left and right, because the Pimax actually tracks from the side as well, and not a lot of other headsets do that, so having it track from the sides as well, not only the front but it tracks the sides, really allows you to have one base station set in front, especially if you're going to do either flying or driving. And I thought that was really awesome. So now I actually had to get my drill out, drill some holes, put the bracket up there, mount the base stations, and I understand that's something that not everyone is going to want to do. In fact, I'm going to see if Terry can send me some photos of his work. This was his solution for his setup, which is really neat. The other option is, if you guys have seen those camera arms for webcams on Amazon, right, that you can attach to your desk, those work well. Another option is going to be these lighthouse stands. These are a little bit more expensive. I don't have these, but I'm gonna link them here because I feel someone might either want them or at least know that it's an option, because not everybody wants to drill into their walls. So yeah, here it is. Check those out. Now, guys, as far as software, it's pretty straightforward. You're going to obviously need SteamVR to plug into your Steam games, but the PiTool software, which is something you need to run, small downloadable file from Pimax, it updates the firmware, allows you to change the FOV, brightness, contrast, color correction, frame rate, just a bunch of different things. Pretty much all the tweaks that we would want in all the other headsets, Pimax gives it to you, and it's really awesome because I think they've listened to the community and given us that for those that want it. Now, granted, I'm new to this, but I'll tell you what, people have been asking for that for the G2 forever, and we don't have that. Microsoft, HP will not give us that. So props to Pimax for allowing folks to really go in there and tweak it and mess with it. So that's really awesome. So one of the key features from the Pimax experience, which is kind of the equivalent to SteamVR, and you can run it or not run it, or you could literally not even open PiTool, and you can install one, set it up, and then essentially just go to Steam and launch your game from Steam. Or essentially what I do is I run DCS, and DCS will load up SteamVR and just throw me into the Pimax. So once it's set up, it's a breeze. But as you start figuring out your field of view, because you can adjust your field of view from the widest to narrow to small, and then they have one called Potato, essentially improving your performance, but also essentially bringing you to the field of view of one of these standard headsets, right? So it's kind of interesting. They allow you to do it because they have the pixels to do it, but you end up just being like some of the other headsets. And some people end up playing some of these sims with a normal field of view instead of the large field of view. The large field of view is amazing, but some sims have been running better, specifically Microsoft Flight Sim. That one's a bit tricky to get to work, with this setup. So just kind of consider that. You kind of get to tweak it. But anyways, the Pimax experience, what it gives you is the really neat home that's kind of like Steam VR. And when you go in there, you get cloud-based profiles from different games. And that's really awesome because it's things that for the most part work well for other users, and it's there and you could download them and run them. It's kind of like, you know, a preset for that game. And you'll see once you get in there, there's a lot of options. It's a little overwhelming. I tend to not mess with it, right? Just run the sim and then say, okay, you know what? Maybe it might do better if it was less bright for this game or whatever the case is. Then I jump back out and then adjust it. And I'll tell you what, out of 7 games I played, I didn't adjust anything. I ran whatever cloud profile it had, and I was pretty happy with it. And to be fair, this is an RTX, 3090 with a 12900K. But yeah, my thing is, is it going to be simple? People are still buying this headset. It's obviously not for everyone, but when they buy it, they're kind of saying, okay, cool. Is it meeting up to the expectations overall, and that's the big deal. All right, guys, so now we're gonna do the pros and cons list. And again, some of this is subjective, right? And some of this is gonna be more factual. So I'm just gonna kind of give you the things that I've learned that I like, that I dislike, some things that can be overlooked, but factors that as a VR simmer, I want you to consider. Now, just because they're cons doesn't mean that you shouldn't get it. You should just kind of like learn about it and be aware as how this might affect you and your specific gameplay. So yeah, I just want to share that with you guys. But let's go to the first one. The most obvious thing is, I guess we can talk about price, right? It's not cheap. It does run $1,200. But again, what you're getting here is 2 4K panels with a huge field of view and a very unique VR experience, right? So the price is going to be there, guys. You guys have to understand that it's not going to be super cheap, really. The Vario Aero is expensive as well. And even the G2 comes in the middle there at $600, and the Valve Index is at $1,200. So again, when you start leaning towards the higher end VR headsets, a whole setup is probably going to run you a little bit closer to $1,500-$1,600, unless there's any discount available or any special promos that they're running, because you're going to need the headset, you're going to need the base stations, and you're going to need the index controllers, right? So that's part of it. The cost getting into it, it's definitely a little bit of a con. It's not just plug and play $300 like an Oculus Quest 2. Also, the field of view is huge. The next big thing I'm going to talk about, it's the weight, guys. This does weigh a little bit. In fact, I'm holding it here with this head, and this headset weighs a little bit over 2 pounds. I think 2.1 or 2 pounds 1 ounce. I'm not sure which one my scale said back there a minute ago, but it's a little bit over 2 pounds, and that's a lot, right? So there's a lot of weight. Now I will say it is balanced with, if you notice this, this tends to grab nice and low on the back of your head. In fact, when I was told this should almost be touching your neck. If you take a look here, it's curved that way. When you rotate your head, it's not going to hit you. It's going to actually have some space. So this is meant to be fairly low on the back of your head, and that's how it counters that heavy weight. Another downside I think might be is that this doesn't necessarily fit everyone, although I've seen other people mention this, and it did improve when I tightened this as well as dropped it lower, was the fit, right? I'm going to say it's a really good fit for me. I feel like I have a big head. You guys can see it. But is light leakage, right? You don't want any light leakage. And once I found the better fit, which was dropping this down, in fact, opening this strap a little bit more, letting the headset, sit on my face, dropping this really low, helped kind of close that up. Although I wouldn't be mad if they adjusted this and closed it tighter. In fact, it's when you look at how narrow this is so narrow. I mean, it really is, and it's a snug fit, very comfortable. But this leaves you a little bit of room. In fact, if you wear glasses, it's probably better because it's not going to squeeze them against your head. And the inserts are replaceable with ones that have slots for glasses. So that's a win. But yeah, the fact that, it might not be the best fit for everyone. And I think every headset is like that. It's kind of tough unless you get to try one. I think it fits a lot of people. Is it going to fit you? I don't know. It fits me. It took me a little bit of adjusting. Again, like I said, dropping that back, opening this up more, and just finding a place where it was comfortable before I was like, okay, there it is. That's not uncomfortable. And it does have a nose flap on the inside, which helps block out light as well, which is pretty good. So a couple pros and cons there, but as we continue with the list, guys, just these cables, right? Like, I think you guys can see that. Guys, these cables, this is something that, I mean, when you're paying this much, in the future, I hope that the 12KX doesn't have this stuff. You know, I want to see one cable running out. I think this solution is nice, the way that it clips onto the back. But let's be honest, like, you know, I don't want to have these extra cables that can be adjusted. Now, part of it is good because you can remove this. You can have different audio solutions. But, you know, having these little extra cables like running around, in fact, I don't feel them. They don't bother me at all because of the way that they're placed around, but they are here. And, you know, this is true. I think it would be nice if we didn't have these, if they were somehow, you know, ran internally inside this setup. In fact, this is an upgraded audio system, which, by the way, these cups are removable. And I ran this for about the first 2 weeks without these cups because I thought these were open back headphones. They are not open back headphones. The upgraded version is, I'll post it here. These need these cups to run, and once you have them, the audio quality was amazing. It was loud, it was full of bass, it was honestly too loud, and I mean good loud. It wasn't like tinny, it didn't you know, crack. The audio, the lows, the mids, and the highs were great. So you need these. Now, I do find myself when I'm putting this on that kind of like my ears kind of like, you know, get stuck, and it's kind of funny. I have to rotate them, put them in. I wish this also slid up and down as it does in the other headsets. I think that would be a really nice feature, which, wait, it does. It totally does. So I totally missed on that, and I'm learning here with you. So, and actually, you know what? I'm going to lie. It does slide up and down, but I might say not enough. Oh, look at that. Okay. It slides up and down. Okay, so it does. 1/4 of an inch. I really, there was times where I needed it to be higher, like a 1/2 inch higher. So that's awesome that it does slide. It's not a lot, but it does move back and forth there. So that's really neat. I can't believe I didn't even think of that. I just assumed that they were fixed, even though they rotated. But anyways, I do appreciate that it does slide, but just not enough for me. I wanted them higher on my head, but the audio quality was decent. Now, guys, one thing is people talk about this wobble. It's something to just be aware of, right? So no other headset that I have does this. It's in part on how this is made. And when you take a look at the hinge here, it has a very small, I don't even know how to show it here. Can I show it? So it kind of hinges in a couple different places. It hinges right here, and then here again it goes up and down. Now this design, it's very interesting, and here's the cables that I was talking about, right? A cleaner build is really what we want. We want simplicity. We want things to last. We want less sort of mechanical type moving parts, just to be sure that the product is going to last us. But as we take a look at it, you know, it just feels right. Like nobody really wants to have that wobbly thing. And I was really concerned about that from other people's reviews. But once I put it on my head, and once I ended up wearing it and just, you know, tighten it correctly, all that kind of went away. Now, as you guys can see, those huge lenses, right? It's going to bring some level of distortion on the extreme edges. Now, I was having this conversation with my buddy today, and when you're in VR, it doesn't matter what headset you have. Like, if you need to look to the left, you're going to look to the left. If I see a car passing me on the right side, and I'm going to look to the right to see what car that is, I might have that peripheral vision and have that awareness that he's there, but I'm going to look in that general direction. And again, 1,000 times over, it didn't matter whether I was in American Truck Simulator, DCS, Microsoft, Pavlov, Skyrim. Having that improved awareness trumps any distortion that might be there. And there is some, for sure, absolutely. It's minimal. In fact, it gets to the point where I don't even see it. Now, the one thing you don't see is a screen door effect. There's definitely no screen door effect. But if you're looking for it, for example, if I'm looking forward and I'm looking at the corner of my eye over there trying to see, you know, who's that passing me as I'm racing, I can't even tell. You know, I need to turn my head, and that's how we do in real life. And in the sim, it works the same. So if people want to sit here, look straight, fly a plane, and look down and try to read the gauges, it's not going to work. In fact, I'll tell you something that happened to me when I was landing in an Airbus the other day. I'm flying, landing the Airbus. I slammed the brakes. I actually had both engines fail because I was, you know, being a clown in the Airbus. I'm rolling down the runway, and I even noticed that the hot brakes, they had lit up on the lower right MFD. It said hot brakes, and I see out of the corner of my eye, and I look. Sure enough, it said hot brakes. So that's what I'm talking about. I could not have like peeked down and read it, but I saw it out of my peripheral vision, and I looked down, and there it is. And I was aware that I had hot brakes because, you know, I had slammed my brakes as I landed. So that's, you know, what I'm going to say about the distortion. Sure, it's there a little bit at the edges, and I don't think any headset is going to be perfect, and this one's definitely not, but it's one of those things that you make do with. I mean, you're in the world, you're in Skyrim, you're in the car, like, you know, you're just moving around so much that you're not looking for that. You know, the clarity's there, the field of view is there. So as we wrap up the cons, kind of a con more on software. Microsoft Flight Sim doesn't fully work with Microsoft Flight Sim. So for those of you guys who know and love Microsoft Flight Sim, it still needs more work. So if you're saying I'm going to jump in just for that, I would say maybe hold off, because the stuff that I'm tolerating, most people will not tolerate. You know, there's certain things happening on the graphical side of things as far as the edges that just look a bit wonky that I'm willing to put up with, even with my high-end system, that most are not going to put up with. And it's not even about the computer, it's more about Microsoft running the sim through Kronos XR and not natively through Steam, and then they have to hook in through Steam to then Kronos, and it's a bit complex and weird. But hopefully when they support the wide field of view headsets, things improve and you don't get the culling and you don't get the pop in and you don't get the weird texture stuff. But lately my experience has been better. I'll try to post some content. It's been significantly better on the large field of view, which was crazy, but I do have a powerful rig, so I can't really recommend that for everyone, because if you don't have a 3090 at the very least, or 3080, you know, I don't even know what it's going to run like. So yeah, that's my last con. All right guys, so as far as the pros, the padding, I'm going to say it's actually very comfortable. It's removable, so I guess it's washable. I'm going to look into that, because I did sweat a bit, and nothing on this headset. It's just my room was hot and the AC wasn't on, and so by the time the AC turned on, cooled down the room, you know, it just kind of, I was sweating a little bit. So yeah, so you can remove them, and I'll find out about washing them here in just a bit, even if it's with, you know, hand wash and let them dry. But I've sweat in the G2 as well, and so far you know, those are doing well. But yeah, it's, the pattern is very comfortable, and I am appreciative of it. In fact, you can detach it, so that's pretty awesome if you want to swap it out. Now, another pro here I'm going to say is the build quality. Overall, everything feels very sturdy. I already did mention these cables and this stuff. I want to see that improved. I really would. You know, nobody wants to see little stuff like this hanging around with 3.5mm audio jacks. So I hope in the future they can just clean that up, put it inside, and just kind of really make it like a premium product, you know, as I think it almost feels like. In fact, it has like this rubbery texture, which everyone keeps talking about. I don't know, some people aren't a fan of this blue color. I think it's kind of cool because I have tan, black, and this blue purple thing going on here, so it's really neat. But the build quality, I'm gonna say overall it's good. Now my question is this gonna last, right? So, you know, I do a lot of simming, a lot of VR stuff, and yeah, I want to know, is this going to last? You want to know, is it going to last as far as an investment for your flight sim in VR? And this so far has been good, but the only thing that's really going to be able to tell is time, right? So the more time I'm spending it, although I do have to send this one back here soon, although we'll see. But I mean, this is just a loan unit, and we'll see if I get any more time with it, because I want to do a couple more videos. But this headset, you know, the overall build quality feels good. I've seen a lot of comments saying that some of the older stuff needed some work and really left some room for improvement, to say the very least. So I'm super grateful that this is actually pretty good. I'm not a super fan of these hinges. I'd love to understand more the thought behind them. You know, nobody really wants to move side to side, you know. Now I can show you this right here. Like, it does not wobble side to side, believe it or not. This is such a tight fit that it doesn't wobble. It almost gives you that impression. But what it does add, it's a little bit of room for flexibility, maybe when you're moving around, which I don't want any of that. I'll be honest. I want it firm, snug, tight. Some people might want it a little bit loose, and I am able to get this nice and comfortable. So I'll show you here some footage in a moment. Another pro is this, I think the KDMAS audio package, which was really good. I'll tell you what, I don't know what came before this. I hope they just ship this with every headset, because this is probably the best. I think there's one tier above this one, which is significantly better as far as lows and mids, but this audio solution was actually really good. I did mention this before. There's no screen door effect. You know, you get the 4K panels, two 4K panels. The resolution, it's amazing. The clarity is great. I still feel like the G2 at times looks sharper. Yeah, I'm going to say the G2 at times looks sharper. But what you get here with the immersion, I'll tell you what, like if I had to fly the Baron, in the G2 or in this, I will take this every single time. Just being able to have that field of view, it's amazing. It really is. So another thing is being able to adjust the colors and the brightness. That's a really neat feature. Not everyone's going to use it, and again, I kind of left it alone to kind of see what default settings were, and overall I thought it did pretty good, looked pretty good. But yes, I mean, I was really surprised. I don't know why I was surprised that it looked so good. For some reason in my head, I kind of had told myself that the G2 was the best headset there was for the longest time. All right, guys, so as we kind of wrap this up, really the Pimax 8KX is the best Pimax headset to date. It really is, right? It surpasses the 8K Plus and the 5K. In fact, I hope I get to try those because I would really love to see how those compare to this and really just understand where they were before and kind of see who those headsets are for. So the 8KX is absolutely their best headset, and it's one of the top contenders right now in the market as far as VR. Who is it for, really? So I think it's for simmers who have powerful rigs. I don't recommend this if you don't have a super powerful rig, because what's going to happen is this: you're going to want to increase that field of view, right? And you're not going to be able to, and it's going to leave you wanting for more. Now, if you do buy it and then plan to upgrade your GPU later, then great. You know, if you ever have the opportunity to try a Pimax headset, I say go and do it. If a buddy has it, if there's a convention, I think they're going to have one in Orlando coming up soon. Try it. Really try as many VR headsets as you can, and that's why I did this, because for the longest time, I mean, I've tried so many other headsets, I just haven't tried headsets with wide field of view. I haven't tried any Pimax headsets, and for some reason I was just kind of like, I'm like, how much better can it be? But having that field of view, once you have that field of view, it kind of does something that it's hard to unsee, right? Like, you didn't know you needed it, but now that you saw it, you kind of want it, and you kind of want it throughout the rest of your headsets. So in the end, it is a great headset. It's not perfect. I wish they would kind of clean up some of the mechanical stuff around it, kind of make it a little bit more solid, maybe even have a halo strap or just a different strap, although this one seems to be working well, and I think they've made it that way to balance out the weight. Again, I'll probably ask them that later on, but so far Pimax seems to be one of the top contender when it comes to VR, and luckily this year we got a lot of different companies pushing out headsets. So some people are saying, should they wait? Maybe you should wait. I wouldn't necessarily go and jump on this if you have a G2. Some people are saying they want to consider the Aero instead. I don't want to take you away from, but this way, I don't want to lead you down the wrong path. The Aero provides clarity. This provides a really good visual image and a great field of view. But in the end, the Aero is going to be sharper, but also the Aero is more expensive. There's just a lot of options, and right now, based on this headset, I'll tell you what, if I can have this in my inventory, I absolutely would, and I would rock it for flight simming. I don't have an Aero yet, and my go-to right now is the G2. It does a really good job at everything. Yeah, guys, so hopefully that was helpful, right? I mean, you got to see some footage. I got to explain my hardware setup, some tips and tricks that I learned along the way. There's no specific, I didn't do any tutorial setups on how to set up this sim or that sim. I might do that later on if I get a little bit more time with the headset. But guys, it was just really difficult to try to condense this video without making it an hour long. I've shot this video a few times. In fact, my camera stopped recording twice, so I had to start again and move the camera. But anyways, guys, yeah, you got to see some gameplay, overall in the sims, objects in the distance do look pretty good. It's really hard to tell, for example, and I think it goes for the other headsets as well, but like DCS, right? I couldn't really tell an F-16 unless I was like 0.2 nautical miles away from it. But the C-17, it's a big jet. I could see it at like a half-mile away. The experience in DCS, which I didn't go through here, I don't think I had any footage, was really just second to none. DCS shines, and I'm probably just gonna do a whole video on DCS, so expect that coming up. I'm just gonna be flying around just talking, so I'll have that video later on in the Viper, just because I feel like DCS needs its own video, especially with how smooth it ran. I mean, it was the best running flight sim right now for the Pimax full resolution. So that's awesome, guys. Anyways, consider this. It's a great headset. Is it going to be for you? I don't know. You kind of have to decide. Do you have a powerful rig? You know, are you going to be using these different games? In fact, I'll tell you what, it ran great in every game, even though Microsoft was not perfect, and Microsoft has issues as far as the edges start populating, and it's called, I think, calling, right? You see entire tiles disappearing right out here at your peripheral view, and it's really frustrating. And I'll tell you what, I kind of run with that on, even though you get that weird graphical effect. I rather have that because the field of view, being able to see the engines on the Baron, it's amazing. But I don't think a lot of people are going to put up with that, you know, and I don't recommend it if Microsoft Flight Sim is your number one sim. If DCS is your number one sim and you have a powerful rig, I would recommend it. Yes, sure, for the field of view. Now, some people, if you want more clarity, again, the Aero is your go-to. It's just so sharp. So I'm curious to see if the Pimax 12KX is going to clean up on some of these things we mentioned, if they're going to improve on that, have higher clarity, you know, what resolution they're going to be running then, you know, what GPU we're going to need then. So we'll see. But again, guys, I hope you found this helpful. Leave me a thumbs up, thumbs down, and give me some feedback. If you have any questions, leave them below, and expect a little bit more content. I'm going to have some more of those entire videos. You just saw some snippets of the gameplay, but I'll have more full videos with the G2 with some commentary. So not the G2, I'm sorry, the Pimax. So expect that coming up here. Anyways, guys, thanks for that, and hope you guys are well. I will stop you.
Wait, you